Chapter 14. They wound their way back towards the kiosk, which was easy enough to spot. With its roof brightly painted with stripes, it was already teeming with people queuing for takeaway items and outdoor tables. If we go inside, we might stand a better chance, Tom suggested. Fleur nodded. More expensive, though. My treat. He grinned and took her arm, guiding her into the restaurant part of the kiosk, which had bright checkered tablecloths and jugs of flowers on the table. Sharp-eyed Tom spotted a couple preparing to leave. There, he said, pointing. A waitress met them. May we? Tom asked, getting to a table that was suddenly absent of guests. Of course, I'll just lay fresh again if you don't mind waiting. Within minutes, they had each ordered a pot of tea and a slice of cake. Fleur had gone for a wedge of jam and cream sponge cake, while Tom couldn't resist the ginger fluff sponge. They both groaned with pleasure at their own cakes, but before long they began to share. Can't take the country out of the boy, eh? Fleur jested. I don't think I've ever tasted that before, but I think Dad had mentioned eating it as a boy. Mum used to bake them for my father. Her cake would stand this tall, he said, gesturing with hands away from the table. She laughed. That's very fluffy. No, that's very delicious. Fleur refreshed their cups of tea and sighed. This is lovely. Thank you for treating me like this. What else can I spend my wages on other than a wonderful day alongside a beautiful girl? Any old beautiful girl? She inquired. He became serious. His features straightened from his previous look of amusement as he shook his head. There's only ever been one for me. Fleur covered his hands with hers and tried to convey silently through his touch that she felt the same way. As she did so, she became aware of a baby's insistent cries. When Fleur stole a look, the child's mother sitting nearby with a family appeared calm, but Fleur's impression was that she was deliberately ignoring those who had begun to stare. A quick glance around the restaurant showed several looks of pointed objection and pursed lips of disapproval at the noise interrupting their morning teas. Fleur looked back at the scene where a man with only one arm, it seemed, was gathering up three children while steering the crying baby's pram, obviously making to leave. The children were clearly unhappy at being hurried away from their treats. The remainders of the famous green, pink and chocolate frog cake, unique to powerful bakery of South Australia, still on their plates. The older child boy turned first and ran back to the table to grab his green frog. Then the other, presumably his young sister, howling at the notion of leaving behind their own pink frog, twisted out from the father's gentle hand. Her much younger brother also joined the charge back to the table, rushing for and getting tangled in his sister's legs and knocking over a chair. Fleur heard gasps from nearby tables and saw the mother's cheek flush with embarrassment at her children's behaviour, while the baby had by now reached a new level of despair and was turning purple with effort. A senior waitress came over and said something to the child that brought a stammering apology from the family before she turned on her head. Hill and walked away. Tom, I have to do something, Fleur said, letting go of his hand, and walked over to the table while casting admonishing glances to all the nearby pinched expressions. He rose too, and as she admonished the diners within earshot, Tom calmly bent and picked up the chair, sitting up straight. They're just children, she said, excited to be at the zoo enjoying their cake. I'm sure they didn't mean to be misbehaved. That was a simple accident. Not waiting for a reply, she turned to her mother. Excuse me for interrupting, but can I help? Close up, Fleur realised the mother was older than she'd appeared, perhaps in her early 40s, but her figure was so trim and her complexion so lovely that they seemed to defy her age. The woman gave Fleur a look of thanks. Our baby's not well, as you can hear, and my husband's struggling a bit with the other three. Fleur nodded. Take no notice. Perhaps these people have forgotten what it is to nurse an upset baby. What are your children's names? The woman told her. Fleur smiled. If you permit, perhaps I could take them to the monkey house. We were heading there anyway, and then you and your husband can settle down the baby. I'll keep your other children distracted but within your eyesight. I'm Fleur Appleby, by the way, and this is Tom Catchlove. He and the woman exchanged a smile. Tom, would you buy some sweets, please, and also some peanuts for the elephant if you can? Of course, I'll set our bill and I won't be far behind. He nodded at Fleur and the woman, and departed. The woman seemed to sink a little in relief. I'm Claire Wren. My husband is Jamie, and thank you. That sounds perfect. Fleur grinned. See you at the monkeys, she said, and didn't linger, making a beeline for the children following their father out of the restaurant. She skipped to the side. I believe you're William, the boy nodded. And this must be Susan, the girl smiled shyly. And you must be little Matty, he corrected. Right, Fleur said, giving him a salute. She felt a mother's awkwardness reaching for her father's hand, helplessly glancing at the empty sleeve of Hugh's jacket, which he had tucked into his pocket. I'm Fleur, if any mothers, she said to the children before smiling at their father. And you're Jamie, I gather. I am, and you're Aunt Fleur Appleby, offered to help out momentarily. Now, my friend Tom, she said, pointing him out from where he'd stood, holding the door open for their mother, has brought us a bag of peanuts, and I wondered if you'd like to have an elephant ride and see the monkeys. Their faces lit up looking at their parents. Go on, Claire said to the children, and she nodded at her husband and to say all was fine. Mum and Dad are right behind us, Fleur said, taking the little girl's hand. She presumed William, who looked to be about 10, wouldn't want anyone holding his hand, but saw Tom give him a wink when he looked up. She reached for Maddie's tiny hand, and he didn't mind a bit. Is that a baby sister or brother? Fleur added at the pram. His name is Alfred, but we call him Alfie, Susan said. But he's not very well, William chimed in. Yes, your mum mentioned. She says we have to be prepared to let Alfie go. The bluntness of the statement caught Fleur by surprise, and she glanced at Tom for support. He looked as disheartened as she did. Oh, was all she could say as Maddie decided to no longer walk, but jump each step. As they started off towards their destination, she smiled sadly at his golden head. Susan continued, Alfie's been sick since he was born, but Mum says, well, we've had Alfie in our lives for 4 months, and we need to be grateful for that blessing. Fleur had to swallow the rise of emotion at that statement. Dad was in the war, William said, oblivious to the pain the honesty was causing. He was badly injured and lost an arm. He's a brave man, your dad, Tom said, ruffling the lad's hair. Now, Fleur tells me we're off to meet an elephant. The children laughed, and we have peanuts, and we know her name is Lillian. Are we ready? Yes, they chorused, and Fleur cut him a look. Oh, thanks for changing the atmosphere. She looked over her shoulder to where Claire and Jamie were following with baby Alfie, who was presumably settling as well. The wailing had dissipated. Claire wore a look of total gratitude. Fleur felt something pass between them. She had such a strong connection to the intense sorrow that these parents were feeling over their sick infant, while no doubt trying to keep life normal and happy for the other children. Her heart felt heavy for the family. She wanted to help them. Tom led them down the path towards the rotunda, where the 3 children stopped with wide eyes to see Lillian, the young elephant, hauling around a wagon load of people. Tom cut Fleur a look of soft despair, and she gave him a sympathetic smile in return. It seemed rather unfair that Lillian spent her time doing this, but Fleur would also argue that the elephant was given lots of love, plenty of food, safety, and daily care by her keepers. So Tom is going to help you to put peanuts on those posts all around where Lillian walked, she pointed. And this clever little elephant is going to use her trunk to snuff up your peanuts with thanks. Susan clapped with pleasure, and William already had his hands open to be loaded with peanuts. Tom led the children forward, while Fleur dropped back a couple of steps to their parents. Is this all right? Jamie looked relieved, and Claire expertly balanced the sleeping Alfie in one arm, squeezed Fleur's elbow with her free hand. You're an angel. Fleur shrugged. Not really. Your children are charming. Not back in the restaurant, I don't think. Jamie grinned. I might join Tom. The woman nodded as he moved off. I'm betting they were perfectly behaved until Alfie got upset. Fleur reassured Claire, who nodded and looked momentarily sad. Susan said he's not well. Claire looked down for a moment. I can't bear to talk about it, to be honest, but the reality is that our darling Alfie won't be with us for much longer. Again, Fleur felt like she'd been punched in the stomach by the rawness of the mission. Words failed me. Nothing to say, truly. We've known for a while. I'm a nurse, and I've learned over the course of my career to make peace quickly with the inevitable. We've explored all avenues. Alfie probably shouldn't have lived at all, but he's a little fighter like his father. This is a battle we can't win, though. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the sleeping baby. Claire, I'm so sorry. The woman found a brave smile. I have 3 other beautiful children, Fleur. I must remind myself constantly to stay grateful for being as blessed as I have been. Plus, I have Jamie. For a while during the war, I didn't think I'd ever see him again. He had his own battles, I can see. Claire nodded. He says he's stayed alive for me. We were both at the front in France, neither knowing the other was there. We met at Gallipoli. What a story you both have. Now Claire smiled. It is romantic. I'll tell you about it someday. I think we might see each other again, Flo said, meaning it, feeling a curious and instant kinship with other women. Are you and Tom? Flo nodded. I hope so. We first met when we were young children, then didn't see each other again until yesterday. Good grief, and I thought my romance was fashioned by the gods. Flo laughed with genuine pleasure. I barely know him, and yet I know him. Does that make sense? More than you can imagine. I think it's wonderful. They watched the children climbing up onto the wagon that Lillian was going to pull around the rotunda. The last elephant, Mary Ann, carried her passengers on one of those Indian howdahs, Fleur explained. Poor little Lillian. But she's growing. They ride her to the East End markets to an enormous swaying station. You mean where they all sell all the fresh goods? Fleur laughed. Yes, and the flowers and herbs. Darling thing stomps up North Terrace with a rider on her back so she can be weighed and the zoo can make sure she's doing well, she chuckled. I think I might have made a good zookeeper. And what do you do, Fleur? Fleur cut her a cautionary glance. Don't be shocked, but I'm a mortician. She paused frantically, but when Claire didn't react, as many people did, she continued. Our families have been undertakers for several generations. I specialise in women, and couldn't didn't finish her sentence. Claire blinked and seemed to understand. Well, what a special role you have. Fleur nodded. It's hard to say this to most, but I love my work. People think it's a bleak or frightening, but really it's opposite. It's uplifting and honour to take care of the beloved for their beloved. I understand. As a nurse, I always felt it was a privilege to hold a soldier's hand and hear his last words, or to sit with the dying, see them through to the end with tenderness, but also a smile. It's not a miserable thing, is it? An honour, as you say. Claire glanced to where the two men were lifting the children down from the wagon, and Tom is a wool classer, but he's left the ship station to come to the city and start afresh, to sort of find himself. Instead, he found you, Fleur. Fleur blushed. I think he needs to work out his next steps. Claire's kind eyes sparkled a little. It's pretty obvious to me that you are his next step. Fleur smiled. He's a country boy. I don't want to force him to stay in the big smoke. Claire nodded. So Jamie, I'm from England and we're quite recently moved to Australia to be near Jamie's family. I have no family left, but he's from a place called Corn, way out in the States, mid-north. He tells me it's about 400 miles north of here. She smiled. You can travel from John O'Groats in Scotland to Land's End in Cornwall, and it would probably only be that far as the crow flies. Australia has such great distances. I can barely think in the vast numbers it is from place to place, and let's not forget we're still talking about the same state. Fleur was stunned. That's quite a coincidence, actually. Tom's from the north too, much further on, as I understand it, as a place called Farina, but in the same direction. They have plenty to share. So you are moving to Corn? No, Claire gusted, as though scared of the notion, but we'll soon visit when it stays cool. Jamie says, we thought about moving there. The bush needs more doctors and nurses, but there's nothing for Jamie out there anymore, and not in his situation. So I've agreed to take on a role here in the city, in which I shall be training hundreds of new nurses, and I promise to encourage them to look to the rural regions. We've brought a big old place in the area called North Adelaide. It's a lovely, drafty old home. 2 stories, big garden, the children can walk to school. I know you feel a bit sad for us, Claire said, glancing at Fleur, but don't. We have a lot of to be grateful for, especially that my love came home from the war. Fleur within a calling card from her handbag. Here, if you ever find yourself in need of a familiar face or babysitter or just a companion for the day, please don't hesitate. I'd love to talk with you again. Then we shall be friends from today, Fleur. I can tell my children all are already as much in love with you and your Tom as you seem to be. They'll never let anyone go who does that for them, she said, pointing. Fleur laughed as she looked over to see Tom with Maddie on his shoulders and Susan bouncing on his feet as he walked, arms encircling his waist. William stood next to him, laughing loudly, amused by how awkward Tom was being forced to move. Even Jamie was grinning. That one, Fleur, is a keeper, Claire said, touching Fleur's cheek gently. Do you love him? Fleur found herself nodding, but shyly. She never thought of herself as self-conscious, but to admit to this about a man she barely knew was a novel feeling. Then don't you ever let him go, no matter what. Jamie and I were suddenly separated in the early part of the war, and we had no idea where the other was. But I never gave up on him. I kept faith he'd survive, and he kept faith that I would keep my promise to me when the war was over at a London hotel. First smile, how romantic, outrageously so, and yet we were so not. It felt such a normal promise to make to one another, just in case we were forced apart. And then we were. But you found each other, Fleur said. Sounded odd, not without our private struggles, but we trusted our love was strong enough to bring us both through, and it did. I won't doubt that what I'm feeling or him. I won't doubt what I'm feeling or him. I promise. Claire squeezed her wrist. Thank you for being so kind and changing my day. Fleur felt entirely encircled by Claire's warmth and easy manner. It was as though they'd known each other for years, and she was convinced that she'd just made the first real female friend she'd ever had. Fleur and Tom farewelled the Wren family with promise to meet again soon, and then holding hands they returned to the monkey cages. It had been fun to share the monkeys with the children, but she'd been so focused on making sure they had a good time. Now she wanted to change a chance to watch their primates more closely, try to engage with them. It's really Mary I want to see. She's the sweetest little thing and quite the performer. There she is, Fleur said as she spotted her leaping about with her companions. How do you know it's her? Tom asked. She's the smallest, arrived for Christmas a year or so ago from Africa. She grinned. Africa via the zoo in Scotland. We exchanged her for some Australian native animals and £70. He touched First Temple. You carry all the information around, he said with all chagrin. Not much good to me, but it goes in and sticks. Imagine what you do when you're let loose into your own company. I think we'll be able to hear that big brain of yours whirring into action. She smiled. I hope so. I've had the best day, Tom. Thank you. He shrugged. It was your idea. I should be thanking you. Now you see, someone like Jimmy Coughlin would never have found today as interesting. You raised questions that forced me to consider how I feel about cages and zoos in general. Jimmy would have thrown peanuts at the monkey or got up on the wagon and expect Lillian to drag him around. He's the kind of fellow who'd throw a ball into the hippo compound. Jimmy is a lightweight, immature, not nearly enough man for me. I hope I am. Well, that's plenty of you for a start. Well, there's plenty of you for a start, she said, letting her gaze roam over his height and width. Outside her home, because it was daylight, Tom seemed to take the precaution of kissing her gently on the cheek before kissing her hand. I'll see you day after tomorrow for dinner. Thank you again for the invitation. I can't wait for Dad to meet again. He's going to get such a surprise. Why? You were a weedy sort of kid, I recall. Nothing weedy about you now. He winked. Nothing, he said, raising an eyebrow, and she burst into laughter at his cheekiness as he hurried away, laughing too. Chapter 15. Today was going to be as busy as it would be physically demanding. Fleur had 2 corpses to take care of, one for local burial, which would be the simpler of the 2, and one would be sent to Port Augusta on the train. She anticipated embalming the later, usually on an all-day task, so she would have to work intently and swiftly today, replacing someone's entire network of veins and arteries with chemicals. After draining the blood required as much mental focus as physical exertion. Making sure pinkish complexion could be maintained through the journey this person was yet to make was the challenge. Fleur wanted his relatives to be able to grieve over someone they recognised, who didn't front them with a grey pallor. The knowledge that she was seeing Tom again tomorrow evening made it easy on her mind, and it was the evening meal that occupied her in the moment. Nan, is there something I can do to help? Any shopping you need? Nan did most of the cooking now that Irma no longer even pretend to duties in the kitchen. Fleur had to wonder exactly what Irma did with all her spare hours. No, your father ordered a roasted chicken. I have all we need for this evening, Miss Appleby. We will run out of some staples, but we've run out of some staples that Mrs. Appleby wants, and I'm nervous that I won't have time. Jeans isn't here today to help. Then let me fetch them. I've got to go out briefly, so give me a list. I'll do them now before I begin my day's work. Are you sure, Mrs. Appleby. I don't want to get you into trouble, Fleur laughed. You won't, and Nan, I've told you before, please call me Fleur. She worried that Nan was so spooked by Irma's rules that she might just curtsy, but fortunately she gave Fleur a shy smile. I'm sorry, I will, I forget. Fleur smiled back. I'll make the list. Hang on. She fetched a used envelope and licked the pencil she kept tucking into her hair during her working day. Right, far away. We'll need some more butter, miss, and some white pepper. Mrs. Appleby likes to have marmalade, and we're running low on yo-yo biscuits and fresh tin of chocolate powder, please, if you can. Mrs. Apple likes to make your father a milky drink at night if he's home. Nan met Fleur's gaze, and she flushed slightly. She hadn't meant it pointedly, but they both knew he was rarely home of an evening. My father never used to drink anything before bed. He usually said it gives him indigestion. Nan shrugged. Miss Appleby insists she likes to make it and carry it up to him just before bed, so she tells me. Fleur shook her head, baffled. Anything else? Meat, cream, salt, sugar, flour, tomato sauce? Nan shook her head at those suggestions. No, we're good. Yes, she said, looking relieved to have remembered. We need more rat poison. She blew out her breath. Mrs. Apple would have skinned me if I'd forgotten that. Rat poison? Fleur repeated. Whatever for? I haven't seen any rats. As she said it, she proudly corrected herself, imagining Irma as a huge rat, using all the same conniving intelligence. Nan shrugged. I might have seen one when I first arrived, but not in the house. It was down the street. Actually, I haven't spotted any since. Nan, you said more rat poison? Yes, the woman sighed. Fleur shook her head in query. We had a box because I picked it up for Mrs. Appleby when I started, but she reminded me yesterday we needed a new one. Nan shrugged again in a don't shoot the messenger kind of way. Fleur's forehead creased deeply. But Irma doesn't lift a finger around the house. Why on earth would she be attending to rats? She bristled non-existent ones. Maybe it's the mortuary, Nan offered hesitantly. Nan, Dad and I are clinically clean in there. Never any food or drinks taken in. Not even drinking water. As every receptacle, every piece of equipment is scrupulously cleaned daily. Plus, once bodies are dealt with, they are sent in or certainly closed up and gone within a day. And I doubt Irma has ever set foot in there to know. She wouldn't have a clue about it. Further, no, we've not seen a rat in here as long as I can recall. Please don't get me into trouble, Nan said, looking somewhat mortified. May I see the old box? I might have thrown it away. What a tick. Nan returned soon enough with it. She rattled off for effect, and then both heard the remnants of crumbling dust. May I? Thanks. Phil took it from Nan. I'll make sure to get another one. Now I know the brand she prefers. Tuesday morning arrived, bringing the news that father wasn't feeling well. What do you mean? She asked Irma, who was tucking greedily into eggs and bacon at the breakfast table. I mean, he's not well, Irma repeated, sounding exasperated by the inquiry. What sort of unwell? Many things, but I'm not a doctor, she replied, effectively closing her part of this conversation. Fleur decided she no longer cared about the pretense of courtesy, especially as they were alone. You are indeed many things, Irma, and among them is that you lack a shred of empathy for anyone. Irma slammed her cutlery down onto her plate. They locked gazes of hate. Fleur hadn't finished. Why are you not up there with him instead of feeding your face down here? I'm also not a nurse. Fleur could see she was deliberately trying to enrage her stepdaughter in saying so, and she had to admit it was working. I'm not used to him, Irma continued, feigning helplessness. I agree, you are absolutely no use to him at all. Fleur flung down her napkin next to her cooling porridge and walked upstairs to her father's room. She knocked gently and then stepped into his bedroom. The curtains were still closed, Dad. She moved across to the window and opened them slightly, watching him wince as the sunlight hit his gaze. Sorry, Dad, let me open these and get some air in, she said, taking the liberty of opening the window a crack. She was at his bedside in moments and took his hand, noting the roughness of his skin, as though small warts were appearing. She made an effort not to show how worried she was by the change to his skin colour. She could see patches that had darkened, while other areas looked livid. He also looked confused. He blinked at her, his expression groggy. What time is it? Past 8, Dad. I won't make church. Fleur gave a small gasp. It's Tuesday, Dad. Henry, that can't be right. It is. We have to pick up from the Bedfords and Mrs. Smith from hospital already. She nodded. What's going on, Dad? He shook his head. I don't know, Fleur. I feel so drowsy and blow my mind. I think I'm going to call the doctor. You'll do no such thing, my girl. I just need some help. Fleur crooked her elbow around his and watched as he swung his tall, suddenly painful thin legs around and placed his feet on the ground. Give me a few moments. She waited. Have you let it slip your mind that Tom Catchgrove is coming this evening? Fleur asked him, for something to say into an otherwise tense silence. Tom, yes. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Right. Help me to stand, please, my love. She said, there. I'll go bathe. Dad, you won't make the Bedfords. Then you'll have to go. Fleur paused, shocked at his remark. What? Yeah, he asked as though what he'd suggested was the most obvious idea to pass over his lips. You've bleated about wanting to give women an opening into undertaking. Here's your chance. Prove to me that a woman can. She didn't know whether to laugh or weep. Instead, she kissed her father. I'll take care of it. You'll get ready for the day and for picking up Mrs. Smith. No, you can do her as well. I think I'll work on accounts today. I want to be fresh and alert as I can to meet your young man. He's not Fleur, my darling, interjected. You forget I've known you since you knew yourself properly. I know all your moods, all your subtle shifts within your temperament, and then you so much to say the name Tom Catchgrove and your eyes light up. Fleur was relieved to hear him sounding more himself. They certainly don't light up for Jimmy Coghlan, Dad, she said, taking her chances. No, I don't know what was in my mind agreeing to that. Irma is in your mind, and yeah, but all that she wants, Jimmy, is her plan, not yours or mine. My plan is to protect your legacy and our business. He hugged her, and in the embrace he felt as though she had her father back, the one she remembered alongside her mother. I hope Tom is the right person for you, Fleur. It would please your darling mother. May her soul rest for you to be happy in marriage and family. Fleur nodded, her eyes watering with emotion. I hope he is too. I like him, and I want you to like him. I'm sure I shall. So off you go. Prove to me you can take over the business, said it on its new path. Fleur stared at her father. You mean that, don't you? He sighed with a soft shrug. Look at me, I'm getting old, getting weary. I must hand over to the next generation at some point, and it's no good me hoping things will remain the same. When I do, I change things from my father. When I change things from when my father had the business, why shouldn't you have the same freedom? Dad, remember, I'm stunned. I don't know what to say. Say you'll make me proud as you always have. He found a tender smile. She gets his cheeks going. You don't want to be late. Make my apologies and let me see how they cope with you. Fetching Mrs. Smith. Robbie will drive. He'll become very reliable behind the wheel. He's become very reliable behind the wheel. Fleur had secretly designed and ordered a charcoal outfit in the hope that this day might eventually arrive. It was a dress made from morning crepe, a special fabric that had allowed the Corduroys brand from Essex, England, to become a new and extremely profitable empire. While she had chosen it so that the widows she met might feel comforted, she privately acknowledged that that the need for special fabrics for the grieving was on the wane. It was her intention to help speed that process. Not only was it expensive, but it was cumbersome. She far preferred the idea that widows and all grieving women could feel confident to wear the colours of half mourning as soon as they felt capable of facing everyday life again. Those colours range from sudden subdued greys to quiet violet purples and heliotropes. However, for now, on her first official visit as undercarriage of Appleby's, she wanted to observe every respectable part of the coat that she could. So while black felt too much, the new charcoal dress felt differential. It included a soft lacing in white at the collar and sleeves, which she hoped would subtly encourage women inside to not feel ashamed or of adornment. She also wore her mother's modest and very simple design Whitby jet ring that her father had given Miss May following their marriage. Fleur had effectively stolen it from mother's jewelry case soon after her passing. Was glad that at 11 she'd had the courage to do so, because Irma had pillaged everything her mother had owned. This was all Fleur had of May's jewelry, and although it was a rather Victorian notion to wear a mourning ring, it felt precious to Fleur because it spoke to the work that had given her family its livelihood. The man who answered the door at the Bedford's Blanche. Sorry, no calls, please. We'll expect an undertaker. Good morning, sir. I am Henry Appleby's daughter, and I have been undertaking with him since I was old enough to work, Fleur said. Glad her voice did not shake. He frowned. But you're a woman. Thank you for noticing. I gather I'm here to meet another one. Mr. Bedford's wife. In his confusion, yeah, Helen. Yes, my sister. Ah, thank you, Flo said, stepping forward gently, but firmly, not waiting for permission. He had no choice but to step aside, but Flo paused and held out a hand. Flo Appleby, she said. Alan Dawkins, he replied, looking perplexed as he met her clear gaze. Is Mrs. Bedford through here? Flo pointed down the corridor of the small house, and now she'd do wait his permission. He nodded. In the back, he's laid out there. She returned the nod with the barest of smiles. My colleagues, Robbie and Albert, she gestured. We'll wait outside until Mrs. Bedford feels ready. She didn't wait for him to say any more, but stepped down the hallway, trying not to let her heels make any noise on the floorboards. She found herself in the parlour, where Corbs was laid out in his pyjamas and dressing gown on the table. Before she even looked around the room, Fleur automatically began making plans for his preparation. She judged that he was likely 5 hours dead at worst. Wriggle was in the face for sure, so it was travelling now through the body, blood pooling at his back. She needed to get Arthur Bedford to the mortuary and change the angle of his body to help prevent signs of lividity. Satisfied with the beginnings of the plan, she looked up. A woman with swollen, red-rimmed eyes regarded her. Fleur introduced herself quickly. My father isn't very well today, Mrs. Bedford. I work with him daily, and so I hope you don't mind that I have come to attend to your husband. The woman blinked. We brought him down here. Fleur nodded. Do you have children too? They're at school. The doctor came yesterday and warned me my Arthur wouldn't make it through the night. Well, he did. He called to me as the birds began singing. Had time to kiss his son and daughter farewell. Although she felt her emotions being stirred by Helen's words, Fleur let a small smile break across her face, sensing this is what was needed in the moment. Arthur said he couldn't see anything, but he could hear the dawn chorus, and it was calling him to rest. I won't be going to the docks today, love, he said. Helen recalled a loud tear swelling and spilling down her cheeks. Fleur wanted to get the lads in immediately to cart Arthur Bedford away, but that wouldn't do. Our family needed time to let go. Would you like a cup of tea, Mrs. Bedford? The widow looked up in surprise. Thank you. I haven't eaten or drunk anything. It was all I could do to give children some porridge and get them away this morning. They were so good. I was in much of a state. They helped draw the curtains and stop the 2 o'clocks in the house. What time was the sad hour on my hours? It was 3 minutes to 6 when my Arthur passed. Fleur glanced at her watch and calculated that Arthur had passed about 3 hours and 20 minutes earlier. Thank you, I remember that for our arrangement, she said, thinking about a small cast iron piece for her father had commissioned. It showed a clock face beautifully rendered in iron, with curiously delicate hands that could be set to the time of death. He placed it on the coffin to inform mourners and prevent the upsetting question that always seemed to be on people's lips. It was a small but special kindness to protect the grieving family, but Fleur understood it to be yet another reason that Appleby had flourished. It's the small things that help Fleur. Remember that, he counselled. No matter how inconsequential to you, it's resonating somewhere with someone. It has a positive effect. It will be remembered. Making her client apology was another small kindness. No, don't get up. Let me, Fleur said, filling a kettle. My brother needs to get to work. Let me tell him to carry on. I'm here now. I won't be leaving you, and I won't be hurrying you. Is there anyone else coming over? Helen nodded. My mother and Arthur's sisters are coming over this morning. Good. Then I'll wait with you until they do. Fleur lit the stove and put the kettle on. The sound of the gas flame gurgling was comforting in the most domestic of ways. You can tell me about Arthur. I'll just speak with your brother. She found him lurking uncomfortably in the short hallway, and Fleur suggested to go to his work. He looked confused. But who will? I will, Mrs. Dawkins. I shall sit with your sister and your brother-in-law until the relatives arrive. Then when I know Mrs. Bedford feels ready, I will have Mr. Bedford transferred to our funeral home, and we will take care of him until all arrangements are made for his interment. You do this? You'll do this? I mean, you personally? Fleur nodded. Of course, I'm Appleby. It's what we do. Her father might have slid her a glance of caution for showing too much pride, but she had a different style, and he'd urged her to prove that she could do this alone. Miss Dawkins found a smile at her remark. Please don't worry, she reassured him. I will keep your sister comforted until she has family around her. We're about to have a pot of tea together. You get off, don't be late. He shook his head, and the gesture spoke of gratitude mingling with wonder. She decided Fleur could tell he was impressed. I'll just say my goodbyes then. Fleur gave him a smile, and I'll let the boys know outside to cool their heads a while. She stepped out, informed her two companions that they were waiting for family members to arrive, and took from them the items she had just deliberately brought with her. Thank you again, the brother said as he pulled on his cap and left the house, and she could tell he meant it. Fleur returned to make the tea, taking the time to warm the pots. Helen was resting her head in her hands, and Fleur understood the woman was coming to terms with the fact that the man laid out on the table was no longer her husband, but the vessel that held him. That's what Fleur needed to see happening. Then she knew she would feel comfortable to make a bolder move when the right moment came along. Arthur's soul had already been set free, and Fleur saw that the kitchen window was open to permit that. The window in the bedroom where he died was probably open to the chill morning air. For the same purpose, she reheated the kettle, bringing it back to boiling, and while she waited for the telltale whistle, she reached for a tin, guessing what it might be. The tea caddy, as she didn't wish to disturb the widow's thoughts. No, the other one, the woman said hastily. Fleur paused, her hand on the tin. I used that one to store rat poison. A chill went through it, Fleur, as the pieces clicked into place. Fleur stared at her, half amused, mouth open. Good grief, we have a bit of problem in the street, and I can't handle the odd mouse. But the rats look large enough to carry my children away. Helen made an attempt at a smile. Fleur gave the chuckle that was needed. Do you know, I've learned we may have a similar problem in our street. She still didn't believe it when Helen's admission gave more credence to Irma's action. Arthur put the rat killer in there. I told him at the time it wasn't a bright idea to put it in the old tea tin, especially not having it in the kitchen, to use the word again. That was only 2 days ago, and the new box he bought got damp. Fleur spoke quickly to distract her. Shall I put the tin up on this shelf instead, nice and high? She opened it first. I've never actually seen rat poison. Can it kill us as well, I wonder? The question was rhetorical. She knew it was toxic. Awful stuff. Leave it goes first. You heard of arsenic being the best way to get rid of your husband. She quipped and then realised what she said. Her expression crumbled. Oh no, she began to weep. Fleur quickly put her arms around the woman's shaking shoulder. Come on now, I know you didn't mean that. Tell me more about Arthur while we wait. After sharing the pot of tea, she remained for long, listening to Helen Bedford's tears come dry, and then returned her happy recollection of her life with her husband. Fleur removed a small box from the bag she'd brought Helen. She said, glad to be on first name term now. I've brought 2 items for you. Firstly, I want you to have this gift. She handed the box to her companion, who frowned as it was placed in her hands. What's this? Bless my, a small token from Applebee's. Thank you for choosing us to look after your husband till he reaches his final resting place. We hope you can enjoy using this to keep remembering all the good times, she said, nodding so Helen might feel encouraged to lift the lid. She didn't, aghast. A locket for me? Fleur couldn't help the jolt of delight she felt inside at Helen's pleasure. This was something she wanted to do for a few years, but she had only recently had the courage to have the lockets made. She ordered only a dozen, using her savings, but she knew they would be powerful over spreading the good word. Helen's response only reinforced what she'd anticipated. Fleur knew she would not produce many more with company money if her father was prepared to provide it, to give lockets to widows and grieving mothers, part of her service. It's engraved, Helen said in awe. Fleur didn't wish to correct her, but that it was enamelled and simply smart. It says, not lost but gone before, which I think is a rather lovely statement to keep you in mind about Arthur. Oh, Fleur, it's beautiful. Helen wept. Open it, Fleur encouraged, and perhaps you can put a small photo of Mr. Bedford in there, so he'll always close to your heart. She quickly handed Helen her handkerchief. Don't apologise, she said before Helen could remonstrate. It would be useful and it would be unusual if you didn't cry. These are good tears on behalf of a good man who will be missed. Helen nodded, but never forgotten, she whispered, tapping at her eyes. Oh, I know Just a picture, please. Thank you. I don't know what to say. This is most touching. I'm glad you like it, Flo said, and in the hallway, Helen, I put a laurel wreath with your permission. I might hang it on your door so your neighbours understand there has been a death and you won't be disturbed by casual callers. But maybe the close neighbours want to visit and commiserate. Helen shook her head in disbelief. I can't believe how kind you are, Fleur. I'm going to have to tell everyone at work about you. I'm a nurse at the hospital. I hope you don't mind. I don't mind a bit. I love you to let all those you know that Applebee's developing its service. I want to offer grieving women a special small sense of lightness in their hearts in whatever manner I can, whether it's by being supportive of their needs or through these tiny gifts to show we care about those left behind as much as we care for those who have passed. Helen nodded. I call Applebee's because your father collected and organised the burial of my father and you're in charge of the funeral parlour now. One day I think my father would like to retire and hand over the reins. I didn't think a woman could. What? Oh, you know, she shrugged. Flo thought she might as well start presenting her argument now. I think a woman can do anything she sets her mind to, and I personally think the time is here for us to become more visible in funerals. How brave you are. Not really, Flo said. I don't have a family to care for. Not yet, anyway. I love my work and I want to do it to the best of my ability. And I think I'm every bit as good as any other funeral director in Adelaide, to be honest. Helen leaned forward. No, Flo, you're better, she said, looking surprised by her own admission. You're not stuffy or frightening. When my uncle died, I was young. He lived with us, and I think I was more upset by the careless attitude shown to his body when they collected him than his actual death. And their somber faces only made the atmosphere worse. She held up her hand before Flo could respond. Not Applebee's, of course. When my father passed, yours was kind, but he was nonetheless grave. You've helped me this morning to breathe again. Flo nodded. I do think a woman's touch can make a difference, but especially to widows and grieving mothers. I believe you. I like the idea that Arthur will be taken care of by you. A little soft knock at the door. That might be a family coming to offer comfort, Flo said. Now let them in, Helen sighed. I maybe have a little more time with Arthur, as long as you need. Flo smiled gently. And Helen, when you're ready to face work, don't go to the hospital. Please come and see me. I think I could use someone with nursing experience. She rose to let the murmuring family members in, smiling softly and welcome, pointing them towards the back of the house and departing as quietly as she entered. Thanks for listening.